children of all ages. The Dirty Bedroom Show proudly brings to you Cards Subject to Change with Hassel. And this week, we're going to dive into one of the biggest what-ifs of all time. What if Scott Hall had returned to the WWF in 1998? That's right, people. So we've covered some things like what if they'd never left? What if this happened? What if that happened? But what if he had returned after WrestleMania in 1998? Now, as you know, WCW had fired Six-Pac from active competition. Seen the FedEx firing facts or whatever it was at the time. And Eric Bischoff done this to try to get Hall and Nash's attention, to hope that he'd show them, oh, if I fire him, I'll fire you guys. But what if, instead of X-Pac going by himself to the WWF and cutting one of the most original, the OG and most badass pop bombs of all time, what if Scott Hall said, you know what, brother, that don't work for me. You're not going to fire my guy. You can fire me too. And they both went to the WWF. Let's dive into what if Scott Hall returned to the WWF in 1998. Now, we will pick up after WrestleMania 14. Steve Austin has just won the WWF Championship the night before from Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is gone. He is... Now, let's be honest, people. We all know, while his back was boo-booed up, he was just a train wreck at the time, which is why WCW would not hire him, even though he wanted to go several times. He was just, he was a mess. So, we're going to go with this. He's gone. But maybe why, instead of waiting 2 years to get his life together, maybe he starts the process now. Who knows? Maybe he shows back up. WrestleMania, the Raw after WrestleMania. DX is there cutting their now historic promo with X-Pac returning. Then Pac says, oh yeah, I didn't escape WCW alone. Then out comes Scott Hall. JR, King, the bad guy has returned. Now King will cut him off real quick. Yeah, the real one this time, Ross. Hall enters the ring and grabs the microphone. Hey, yo. It's survey time. Are you guys here to see the WWF? He works the crowd smiling. Or are you here to see DX and the genuine McCoy, the real Razor Ramon Scott Hall? Survey says, one more for the bad guy. Hey, Ross. You and I are going to have a talk later about that Chico you brought down here looking like a goof trying to call me. He said, but I know, Vinnie Mac, I know it was all you, all along, Mr. McMahon. I'm done kicking your ass from afar in the ratings. I'm here to kick your ass in person. Billy Gunn grabs the mic and says, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you. Suck it. Now, if you wasn't doing that in school at the time, what were you doing with your life? I still want to do it today, and it's 25 years later. But, who knows? Next week on Raw, we get Scott Hall in his return to the ring versus Kama Mustafa. Now, this was around the time Kama Mustafa quit being Kama and did become the Godfather. Honestly, as much as I enjoyed the Godfather and the good old Ho Train, who doesn't enjoy a good old Ho Train? I really did think that the Kama Mustafa character was a legit badass and had wheels. I'd like to see him do a little more with that. Hall gets a massive pop and he works the crowd well against Kama. Razor beats Kama with the Razor's Edge. Afterward, Hall grabs the mic and says, hey yo, survey time. The crowd would erupt. Sounds like one more for the bad guy. Now later in the night, Owen will win the European Championship from Triple H. The next week on Raw, DX would come down being their playful selves. Scott Hall will grab the mic and say, hey yo, Owen Hart, Blackheart. Last week you took possession of DX Gold. Congratulations, you pulled it off. Hell, Chico, celebrate. Because at Unforgiven, it's you and me for the strap. Billy Gunn hits him with that famous 2 words for you. At Unforgiven, April 26, 1998, Owen Hart, he is interviewed by Michael Cole. Michael Cole asks Owen, and he says, "What are your odds against DX tonight?" Owen grabs the mic and says, "Razor, if you have any guts, you'll leave the rest of those clowns in the back, and it'll just be me and you one-on-one, Chico." In the European Championship match, champion Owen Hart versus Scott Razor Hall. Now, Hall comes down to the ring looking like only he can, and he comes alone. The European champion Owen Hart comes down. Razor flicks his toothpick at Owen, and Hart would erupt. They began a good brawl back and forth. Solid matchup, as these two always had great chemistry with one another. Now, Hall really elevates Hart in this match right here. It makes him look like the man eventer that he really was. And if you're curious about what I think could have happened with the Black Heart, Owen Hart, go to our Stay Weird Network channel. Our very first episode of Card Subject to Change was what if Owen Hart got a bigger push when he returned to the WWF. Hall goes for the Razor's Edge, but Owen wiggles out, and that's when Scott Hall counters with a roll-up with a handful of trunks. 1, 2, 3, and new European champion, Scott Hall. Afterwards, Michael Cole asks Hart what's going on, and he declares, "Enough is enough, and it's time for a change." Now, the next night on Raw, we get a rematch of Owen Hart versus European champion Scott Hall. This second match is even better than the first match, but then Owen Hart gets in jeopardy of losing when out comes the Nation, jumping Hall, calling for the DQ. DX comes down for the save, and it becomes a Pier 6 brawl. It is announced on WWF.com that Over the Edge, it will be DX members Scott Hall, Triple H, and X-Pac versus the Nation, D'Lo Brown, and its newest member and co-leader, Owen Hart. He told you enough was enough, and that it was time for a change. Now, I'll be honest, I fit like a damn square peg in a round hole. It just was not, wasn't good, people. Nothing said we don't know what to do with Owen Hart, quite like Owen Hart joining the Nation. We are the Nation. We're wrong. That might be another episode one day later. The Nation needed a different push. And Over the Edge, DX versus the Nation. The Nation works over DX early on, singling out X-Pac. We get a hot tag to Razor, who comes in and makes the comeback for DX. Triple H gets a tag in and starts planting seeds of jealousy towards X-Pac and Razor. DX has the match fully won when Triple H is distracted by D'Lo Brown, and Kama sends him colliding into X-Pac. Owen steals the win over Triple H. After the matchup, we get a great deal of argument between X-Pac and Triple H, with Scott Hall trying to play peacemaker. On Raw, European champion Scott Hall versus Who's the Man? Vader. King would point out that this was the second contest between Hall and Vader, with Hall losing the last match in 1996 before jumping to WCW. Vader run Hall out of the WWF last time, Ross. JR. King, you're right. In your house. Good friends, better enemies. But this time, it's for the title. And this time, he looks to be a little more focused bad guy than that what we seen last time. We definitely know what he did as he went down south and sparked a revolution. Now, Vader has his hands full in this match tonight. Razor and China come down, and for the massive pop, Vader comes down and attacks Hall before the bell even rings. He almost looks like the Vader of old. Good match. Vader goes for a Vader bomb, but Hall uses Vader's momentum against him as he was playing possum. And Vader, while being on the second rope, Hall uses his momentum against him, hits him with a Razor's Edge off the second rope for Razor to get the win. We spend the next 2 months with DX fighting the Nation, both trading wins back and forth. On Raw, the Nation comes out and begins to cut a promo on DX when down comes DX, with Hall saying, "Hey yo, Rocky, Week after week, you come out here like some goof running your mouth, Chico. Let's end this. SummerSlam. 2 matches. Triple H and Pac versus D'Lo and Henry. And then, for the second match, you got a title on your shoulder. I got a title on my shoulder, and I'm really familiar with that title that's on your shoulder. However, I ain't never wore that version of it. I am the four-time Intercontinental Champion, so why shouldn't I be the first 5-time Intercontinental Champion? So how about it at SummerSlam? My title versus your title in a ladder match. Now, The Rock was a beast during this time. Chico, Razor Ramon, you want to come out here and challenge The Rock? I'm the people's champion. So you're wrong. That's SummerSlam. I'm going to climb the people's ladder rung by damn rung, and I will win both belts. Now we get a fun build leading into SummerSlam with great promos by Hall and The Rock. SummerSlam, August 30th, 1998. Triple H and X-Pac come out with China versus D'Lo and Mark Henry. We're getting an excited match with the crowd firmly behind DX. Pac makes a hot tag to Triple H, who kicks Pac and pedigrees him. Then looks at the nation. He's all yours. Exits the ring. D'Lo hits the lowdown on Pac for the win. Hunter looks at China and says, who is just standing there in disbelief, and says, "Are you coming?" He walks away as she goes into the ring and checks on X-Pac. For the Intercontinental Championship, we get Intercontinental and European Championship ladder match. We get champion The Rock versus Scott Razor Hall. Now, the crowd loves Hall, but at this time, this is when Rock was beginning to lose his heat. And no matter how much he tried to be a heel, the fans were just really getting behind The Rock during this time. Roller coaster ride of the match with Hall showcasing it wasn't HBK who was the king of the ladder match. The nation comes down to help The Rock, but Triple H and the Outlaws come out, confusing the crowd. Hall hits Rock with a razor's edge as he's trying to climb the ladder. Hall climbs the ladder and wins the Intercontinental Champion. He stands tall atop the ladder with both belts, becoming the first 5-time Intercontinental Champion. Now on Raw, the very next night, we would get China, X-Pac, and Scott Hall coming down to the ring. Hall opens up. "Hey, yo, last night was bittersweet as I left with all the gold, but X-Pac got a knife in the back. So, Hunter, since you wanting to avoid my phone calls, let's do this the right way. Since you and the Outlaws did do the right thing last night, how about you come down here and tell me what's going on?" DX music erupts, interrupting Scott Hall. Triple H and the tag team champions come out. "Scott, we go way back. You know like I know, Pac is dead weight, who just rode the Click's coattails, then the NWO's coattails, and now DX coattails. We don't need him, brother. So I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked China. Are you coming?" He drops the mic and leaves. Hall stands there looking confused. In the main event, we get Scott Hall and X-Pac versus Austin and Mankind with Vince McMahon as the referee. We got Vince as a ref a whole lot back then, people. We get a white hot crowd for this one right here. All 4 men looking great. 4-star matchup. Austin hits X-Pac with a stunner, but Vince is watching Hall and Mankind outside the ring. Triple H and the Outlaws attack Austin, hitting him with a famouser. A roll out as Scott Hall comes back in. They get the Mankind on the outside. Hall hits Austin with a razor's edge. Vince counts the 1, 2, 3. JR would lose his shit. Scott Hall has just pinned the WWF champion, but whose side is he on? Raw opens the next week with Vince McMahon calling Scott Hall down to the ring. Hall enters the ring but is a bit cautious. Vince looks at him and says, "Scott, in the spring of '96, you come to me asking for a raise. And when I didn't give you one, you went and sparked a revolution that turned a sinking ship into a juggernaut. I'm man enough to know I owe you an apology. I'm sorry, Scott. I'm sorry for letting Shawn Michaels tell me that he was the only one of the clique that I needed. I listened, and I backed the wrong superstar. Yeah, he followed his boyhood dream, and in 2 years, he fizzled out, lost his smile, lost his title, and lost his career. But in the process, I lost you, Scott. I lost Diesel. Hell, I even lost the Hitman because I listened to Shawn Michaels. I want to fix that tonight, Razor. You want money? It's yours. I doubled your contract earlier today. And as I look at you with the European and the Intercontinental Championship, I only see one thing missing. The WWF Championship. Now this is when Scott Hall would interrupt him. Oh yeah? How many title shots did I get before I left, Vince? Razor, you stay draped in gold. And then Hall comes back. I see gold. I got one big title opportunity my rookie year versus Brett. After that, you kept me away from the belt. Vince interjects again. That's not fair, Scott. Nash and Michaels. Hall interjects. You're right. They got title shots. They got runs. And I was cool with that because we're family. The clique. So I was like, pay me. What did you say? I can't. Then you job me out while Big Diesel gets to pick and choose, even getting a crack at the WWF Championship. Hell, had he won, he would have took that belt down south. But now you see value in the bad guy? Survey says, I'll beat your ringmaster tonight, and then I'll have all the gold. In the main event, we got WWF champion Stone Cold Steve Austin versus the Euro Continental champion Scott Razor Hall. Now Scott gets a huge ovation, but in '98, Stone Cold was getting those Road Warrior pops when that glass shattered. Now the match would open up with a good old stare down with some trash talk. Hall hits Austin with the toothpick, and Austin responds with them hands. We get a great matchup as the crowd is just torn between they didn't know who to go for. To the King pointed out, making references that they don't even know who to cheer. Triple H and the Outlaws run down, and Ross is screaming, they're going to screw Stone Cold. Hall uses a distraction to hit the Razor's Edge on Austin. 1, 2, 3 quarters. The ref is yanked out and blasted by Road Dogg. Razor is livid. Then DX jumps Hall, ganging him and Austin out as the show closes. Raw begins the next week with Triple H and the Outlaws coming down declaring that they are DX, and that Hall, Pac, and China, they're gone. They are no longer part of DX. Triple H Vince that Hall and Nash left him in the Federation to clean up their messes and go play nursemaid to Shawn Michaels. Where were you two guys at when I was punished for a year? I had to shed Shawn Michaels and truly make DX a household name. That me and the Outlaws, we are DX. Then the music of Razor Ramon screeches as he gets an updated metal version. Scott Hall, hey Paul, since we shooting, let's let it all out, Chico. When you showed up in '95, I noticed you had talent. And I knew it was what it was like for old guys down south to try to hold you down just to keep their spot. So I told Big Kev, let's help him out. Because you were sinking. No one liked us backstage. Hell, nobody liked you backstage. Kev said, Scott, he don't have the edge needed to be here. He's indie at best. But Sean agreed with me. Well, had we not took you under our wings, where would you have been? What would have been of you? What would have you have come? You were jerking the curtain with the Wild Man, staring up at the lights every night, 30 seconds after a match with Ultimate Warrior. Or maybe it was a hog pen matches. They laughed. You'd be a nobody without us. But you used me and you used Kev, then you used Sean. Then you used the screw job and gained favor with Vince McMahon. Then Pac and I come to help you and stay afloat. And once Sean needed you to go off, what did you do? You stabbed him in the back. Ross hits him with, oh God, they are shooting. Sky Hall comes back. So I tell you what, Paul, at breakdown, it's you three or DX versus us three. Pac, China, and myself. Scott, are you sober? Triple H looks at him and says, Scott, are you even sober? Road Dogg, smell his breath, Billy. Triple H, you got it. Hall goes, oh yeah, China, Pac, inform him who's the special guest referee. I think you know him real well, Paul. And that's when HBK's music goes thundering through the arena. At In Your House Breakdown, September 17th, 1998. Todd Pettengill interviews HBK and asks if he's going to call this one right down the middle. Sean, I know, my track record ain't so good with wearing the stripes. But tonight, we call it right down the middle. We get the Click versus DX. DX has massive heat as they make their entrance. Hunter gets a nose-to-nose with Sean, but Razor's music hits, and down comes the Click. Hall, Nat, Pac, and China. Hall calls Hunter to start with him, but Hunter declines. Road Dogg enters, and China tags herself into the match. China tags in the fight, and she goes against the D.O. Double G. As the match goes on, every time Hall and Triple H almost get into the match together, Triple H hightails it out of the ring and tags one of the Outlaws. Ross, Triple H is running like a scalded dog. As Hall and Billy Gunn fight, he jumps Hall from the behind and then tags in Gunn. Sean gets in Hunter's face. The two nose to nose as Hall spins Triple H around and punches him to the face. China jumps in then to attack Scott Hall from behind and save Triple H. Sean hits her with sweet chin music. Hall hits the razor's edge on Triple H for the win. Triple H and China are then carried to the back by the Outlaws. The Click, Hall, X-Pac, and HBK celebrate. Now on Raw the next night, Scott Hall will defend the European Championship against JEFFJARRET. Ha ha ha! That's right, people. Double J Jeff Jarrett. He's got to make an appearance in every episode. We get a good matchup between these two. China walks down to the ring alone, getting Scott Hall's attention as the ref is turned around when Triple H slides in and pedigrees Hall. Jarrett would then nail the stroke and get the win to become the new European champion. JEFFJARRET. Ha ha ha! We just misspelled the shit out of Jeff Jarrett. But he is now the European champion. On WWF.com, they would announce that at Judgment Day, it is IC champion Scott Hall versus Triple H. China will be in a cage above the ring. Man, you remember those good old matches when we get a cage above the ring, the manager where they could not interfere? I miss those days. At Judgment Day, Intercontinental Champion Scott Hall versus Triple H. China is high above the ring. Hall is oozing machismo as Triple H has no escape. We get a great match with a solid ring psychologist. Triple H, he takes control early on, but Hall begins to make his comeback with the crowd firmly behind him. He hits those punches and then the sack of shit slam. Signals for the razor's edge. He hoists Triple H up, but Triple H wiggles out as Hall turns around, kick to the gut, and a pedigree. 1, 2, 3, and new Intercontinental Champion, Triple H. That's right, people. Triple H just got a clean win over Scott Hall. Now on Raw, it's announced that at the Survivor Series, a new WWF champion will be crowned in a Deadly Game tournament after there was no clear winner last night. Hall is interviewed by Michael Cole. He congratulates Hunter and even says he did it clean, but now his sights are clear and it's on the WWF Championship. At Survivor Series, November 1998, in round 1, Scott Hall beats Jeff Jarrett. Double J, he gets his revenge on you, buddy. In the quarterfinal round, Scott Hall beats none other than Mankind. In the semifinals, it's Scott Hall versus Stone Cold Steve Austin with special guest ref Shane McMahon. Hall and Austin, they're trying to trade the advantage back and forth, and Shane says he's going to call this match down the middle. Vince makes his way down ringside and obviously goes to drawing Austin's attention. Stone Cold begins to jaw him with Vince. Hall capitalizes by nailing Razor's Edge. Shane then gives somewhat of a fast count to Hall for Hall to get the win. Scott Hall has just beat Stone Cold Steve Austin again, but now it's questionable because it was a fast count. The McMahons exit fast. Scott Hall looks confused, but he shrugs and says, "We'll take it." JR. "King, the fix is in. I think my man just selected his corporate champion." WWF Championship final rounds. We got Scott Hall versus The Rock. Now, The Rock had organically become a top face by this time. He has dubbed himself the People's Champion. Hell, I know I had the sideburns back then and would pull the eyebrow out from time to time. Scott Hall hits The Rock with a toothpick, and off we go. We get our SummerSlam rematch. JR and the King really drive the narrative that Hall is the corporate man now. Great 4-star matchup with tons of back and forth and false finishes. Ref Shane McMahon is calling it right down the middle, though. Once again, Vince makes his way down ringside. The Rock trash talks Vince. Vince smiles and gives a thumbs down. Shane kicks Hall and the boys from behind. Hall drops to his knees in agonizing pain. The Rock hits Scott Hall with a rock bottom for the 1, 2, 3, and new WWF champion, The Rock. That's right, people. The Rock is the corporate champion. They just swerved us all, and JR is furious. JR goes, "The Rock just sold his damn soul." Now, Raw would open up with the corporation celebrating in the ring. "Vince, you people really are gullible. Like I would have chosen that degenerate like Hall, a man who tried to put me out of business as my corporate champion. Are you kidding me, you morons? I want a blue chipper like The Rock." Scott Hall storms down to the ring, facing everybody with haymakers, but Rock and The Undertaker jump him, and then that glass shatters, people. When the glass shatters, down comes Austin. Austin helps him fight off the corporation. In the main event, we get Stone Cold Steve Austin and Scott Hall versus The Rock and Undertaker. We get a backstage interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Scott Hall. And Michael Cole asks the two men how they're going to coexist. Scott Hall said, "Hey, yo, Steve and I, we ain't besties, but we've been up and down the roads a few times. We don't have to like each other. We ain't got to drink together for it to be an ass-kicking match. When it's ass-kicking time." Austin says, "I hate Vince McMahon, then Hall, any day, it's still DTA. So you get my way, I'll drop you flat and drop you, and that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so." So it's time for the main event. Scott Hall and Steve Austin versus WWF Champion The Rock and The Undertaker. Stone Cold and Hall are actually jawing with each other as the match begins as to who's going to actually start the match. Hall and Taker open the contest. Evil Ministry Taker takes control of the match and seems unstoppable. Taker and Rock, they keep Razor isolated, working him over with quick tags. Razor makes his comeback and Taker finally gets the hot tag to Austin, who cleans house. Stunner to Taker. 1, 2, ref bump. All four men hit the ring and it's just pandemonium. They're from the rafters, people. Razor hits the Razor's Edge on Rock. Austin stuns Taker to end the show. Now on WWF.com, it is announced that In Your House Rock Bottom, it's going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Undertaker. If the Austin loses, he cannot compete in the Royal Rumble. But it's also for the WWF Championship. WWF Champion The Rock will defend against Scott Razor Hall. Now at rock bottom, we get WWF Champion The Rock versus Scott Hall. Vince is the special guest referee. Hall is all business, not playing to the crowd tonight. Rock starts the match off reeling back from Hall's offense. Hall is on fire. Vince looks worried. Shane is ringside and tries to trip Hall. The Rock takes advantage and puts the boots to Hall. Few fast counts on every time The Rock tries to get the pinfall over Hall. Then HBK and X-Pac come down the aisle and neutralize Shane. While Pac is beating Shane all to hell and back, Shawn slides in and super kicks Vince. Hall puts The Rock in the razor's edge. Michael grabs Vince's hand, putting the 1, 2, 3 down with Vince's referee hand for a new WWF Champion, Scott Hall. Now on Raw the next night, we get new champion Scott Hall with X-Pac and HBK coming down. HBK goes, "Click is in the house." X-Pac and Shawn, I don't know if you heard, there's a new WWF champion. HBK, seems like I heard that. Now then when Hall will take over with a mic with a, "Hey yo, survey time. Are you here to see the people's jabroni The Rock?" The crowd would be booing like hell as Scott Hall worked the crowd over. "Are you here to see the WWF champion, Scott Hall?" The crowd would erupt. One more for the Click. "Hey Rocky, how's former champion sound to you?" The Click all laugh as the glass shatters and out comes Austin. "Hey Chico, you ain't the only one who won last night. Just so you know, at the Royal Rumble, I'm going to throw 29 other pieces of trash over the ring, and I'm going to be the one to win the Royal Rumble. Bad guy, if you still got the belt, just know it's me and you at WrestleMania." Hall looks at him and says, "I like my chances." Then we hear "No chance in hell." Then out comes Vince and the corporation. "Congrats, Razor. You finally done it, and you won the big one." Well, Rock will get a rematch at the Royal Rumble and an I Quit match. But since you two seem to be such good friends and ready to fight, how about tonight it's The Rock, the Boss Man, Shamrock, and Triple H versus Scott Hall, Steve Austin, X-Pac, and since you're so healthy last night, Shawn Michaels, how about you? King would lose his shit. "You hear that, Ross? Shawn Michaels, the WWF match for the first time since WrestleMania when he lost to Stone Cold Steve Austin." JR will go, "This will be Shawn Michaels' first match in over 10 months. We get the main event. The Click in Austin versus the Corporation. Triple H is mocking HBK, stalling as it's time to fight now. X-Pac and Shamrock will start off the match in a fast-paced match. Shamrock and Boss Man will keep Pac isolated, showing that why they are the tag team champions. Rock gets in and begins to toy with Pac. Pac escapes and makes the hot tag to Hall. Hall is then the WWF champion, cleaning the house, taking it to The Rock, who quickly tags in Helmsley. Solid back and forth between these two. Hall tags in Michaels, and when Michaels gets in, Triple H immediately runs and tags Ken Shamrock running up the ramp, with HBK giving chase. This was essentially making it a 6-man tag match. Austin stuns Shamrock with while the others brawl. Austin gets the win. The next week on Raw, Vince McMahon declares that since Austin and Hall looked so good as a tag team last night, that at the Royal Rumble as a warm-up for both their respective matches, Steve Austin and Scott Hall would challenge the WWF Tag Team Champions, the Big Boss Man and Ken Shamrock. Now, Ross would already be losing his shit. Oh my God, King. Miss McMahon is just stacking the deck. At the Royal Rumble, January 24th, 1999, the tag team champions, Ken Shamrock and the Big Boss Man. You ever down in Georgia, you cross that Cobb County line, you better respect the law and order or you'll be doing time. Versus WWF Champion Scott Hall and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Hall and Stone Cold begin the match arguing just like last time as to who's going to start. Austin starts the match with Boss Man. Over the course of the matchup, though, the tag team champions wear down the challengers as they show why they are so good as being tag team champions. And they really take it to them. Eventually, Hall hits Ken Shamrock with a razor's edge while Austin nails a stunner on the Boss Man. 1, 2, 3, and new WWF Tag Team Champions, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Scott Razor Hall. Mr. McMahon will be screwing Austin to still win the Royal Rumble, however, later in the night. In our I Quit match, we get WWF Champion Scott Hall, and also one half of the Tag Team Champions, versus The Rock in a no DQ bar fight. In and out of the ring, Hall is holding his own, but definitely showing signs of fatigue from the tag match earlier on. Shane comes down and blasts Hall with brass knuckles. JR, the champ is out, King. Rock punches him in the head and then goes with the mic several times, then covers his face up and puts the mic up to his face. As we hear, I quit. Now the King will be like, that don't sound like Hall, JR. Ross, you damn right it doesn't. The champ has just been screwed, and now we got a new world champion, and it's The Rock. On Raw, new WWF champion The Rock is bragging about making Razor quit. Then out comes Razor. Chico, you ain't made me quit. I ain't got no quit in me. So that beaver boy in the back in the production truck, play the clip. We get a video playback of an interview from 3 weeks earlier where Scott Hall states that he will make The Rock say, I quit, and it is a perfect match. You stole my property, and I'm here to collect. When out comes Linda McMahon. And she had that old school WrestleMania music too, man. It was always something when Linda showed up. I have an official announcement from the board. As St. Valentine's Day Massacre, Rock, you will defend your stolen title against Scott Hall in a last man standing match with everyone banned from ringside. No Vince, no Shane, no corporation, because if anyone interferes, they will be fired. Also, Vince, you have a steel cage match with Stone Cold Steve Austin for the matchup at WrestleMania that you stole last night. Now, the crowd would erupt as our biggest two baby faces seemingly in line for retribution at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The Raw before St. Valentine's Day Massacre is Tag Team Champions Scott Hall and Steve Austin versus Owen Hart and, once again, Jeff Jarrett with Deborah. Vince comes down and declares himself the special guest ref. This goes 100% just like you think it does. Scott Hall has Owen beat with the razor's edge, but Vince is talking and looking at Deborah's puppies. As Jarrett nails Hall with the guitar. Austin chases after Jeff. Vince pulls Owen on top of Hall for the 1, 2, 3 fast count. And new WWF Tag Team Champions, Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett with Deborah. And in your house, St. Valentine's Day Massacre. WWF Champion The Rock versus Scott Hall in a last man standing match. Now, this gets ugly real fast with the two men using everything in the book. If it's not nailed down, they used it. Hall hits a razor's edge on The Rock from the top of the ramp through the tables below. Rock is down and doesn't answer the 10 count. Scott Hall regains the WWF Championship. In the cage match, Big Show still makes his debut, but instead of getting that silly finish that we got before where he threw Austin through and Austin won, which made no damn sense at all, he's going to put them things on Steve Austin. Vince McMahon is going to escape the cage, and Vince McMahon is going to steal the win. That's right, people. Steve Austin is not going to the main event of WrestleMania 15. On Raw, the next night, Vince and Big Show come down to the ring. Vince brags about defeating Austin so that he isn't even here tonight. He announces that at WrestleMania it will be Steve Austin versus the Big Show. That's right, people. The Big Show is going to have an actual match at WrestleMania 15 a month after he debuted versus that bullshit we got with him and Mankind to see who was a referee. That was lame. Instead, he's getting a main event match against Stone Cold. Now, on to the WWF Championship. As much as he'd like to be the WWF Champion, it's a step down and beneath the owner of the WWF. So later tonight, he will announce his replacement. Scott Hall comes out with X-Pac and HBK. Hey, yo, I don't care what goof you select. They'll end up in a hospital just like the Croc. Vince, I see you're ready to fight. So how about tonight? You three versus Triple H, Big Show, and Kane. The Hall looks at him and says, don't sing it, bring it. In the main event, we get the Click versus Big Show, Triple H, and Kane. The crowd is electric. Shawn Michaels requests to start the match when it looks like Triple H is starting the match. But then Helmsley quickly tags out to the Big Show, steps in. Shawn tags WWF Champion Scott Hall. Razor mocks Show, hitting him with that old Frankenstein that he would do from time to time, which was always a blast in WCW. Tells him, hey yo, Giant, I ain't scared of you. All of a sudden, then from the side, he gets nailed with sweet chin music. That's right, people. Shawn Michaels just turned on Scott Hall. Then we get X-Pac, who jumps in the ring and quickly joins HBK and Triple H in a 2-sweep. They all gang out. Scott Hall busted him wide open. He is Muda scale bloody at this point. He is just a mess as these 5 men jump him and just beat the holy hell from him. The show ends with the DX and Corporation celebrating. The next week on Raw, Vince comes down with DX and the Corporation. He said, I said I'd declare a new #1 contender last week, and after careful consideration, who better to headline WrestleMania than the showstopper, HBK. Shawn Michaels smiles. He grabs the mic. He says, 1 year ago, I was the most hated man in professional wrestling. Everyone wrote me off after WrestleMania but Vince McMahon. Now it's time to remind everybody why I am the main event, the icon, the showstopper, Mr. WrestleMania himself, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. With Triple H and Shawn Michaels by my side, X-Pac by my side, this version of DX is unstoppable. X-Pac, I'd like to thank Mr. McMahon for always believing in me and HBK when no one else did. Everyone else wrote us off. He fake cried. He wipes away fake tears for a minute there. Razor, you stole my spotlight. You stole my return last year. You made it all about you. Where was my opportunities? But I got them now. Vince McMahon goes, that's right, because tonight for the Intercontinental Champion is X-Pac versus Intercontinental Champion Road Dogg. Scott Hall comes out. Wah, wah, wah. When you were in diapers when you left the WWF in 1996, and here you are still bitching and crying now. You know, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised by Shawn Michaels turning on me. He always rode Vince's pole. Huge prop from the crowd on that one right there. But Pac, you're a real Judas. You actually hurt my heart, Chico. The Click is dead. You 3 piles of piss ants, you can go be DX all you want. Triple H says, you know what, Scott? You talk a lot of shit for a team of one. How about we just kick your ass right here again tonight? Hall says, let's do it. Hall runs down to the ring, one against all. He does not care. Then out comes Mankind with a chair, but it's still just not enough when suddenly that glass shatters. Down comes Austin. They clear the ring after definitely taking a beating, but at the same time, they clear the ring out. And then the mic hits, next week, Hall says, next week, I got a big surprise for you. Next week on Raw, in the main event, we get WWF Champion Scott Hall versus the new Intercontinental Champion X-Pac. Now, X-Pac runs and hides a lot during the opening of this match. Triple H and HBK helping him from time to time when the ref isn't looking. Ross is over there beside himself. Oh, come on, this is a damn glorified 3-on-1. Then we hear that unmistakable diesel horn as Big Daddy Cool, Kevin Nash, comes down to the ring. Hall and Nash clear house as DX look like they have just saw a ghost. Nash grabs a mic. Did you morons really think I'm going to sit back and watch my best friend get busted open and do nothing? I got my immediate release that night. Thanks, Eric. Big D and Razor ain't on the outside no more, boys. We're here and we're going to show you who runs the damn WWF once again. Oh yeah, Judas Pac. As part of my deal, Linda was kind enough to give me an Intercontinental Championship match against you at WrestleMania. The Hills are screaming and beside themselves as Hall and Nash drop the mic and the Outsiders celebrate the ring. WrestleMania 15, March 28th, 1999. Now, Austin will beat Big Show with Mankind as a special guest referee. Nash will win the Intercontinental Championship in a squash match over X-Pac, reminiscent of the Ultimate Warrior in Helmsley at WrestleMania 12. WWF Champion Scott Hall versus HBK Shawn Michaels. Both men make grand entrances. This is an absolute classic. A 28-star Meltzer Award winner. Shawn looks the best he has in years. JR will be, Michaels used his time away and he's got his body back on track. It's 1996 all over again for HBK. Tons of false finishes, back and forth momentum. Triple H comes down, but Nash heads him off at the pass. Later, Shane and Vince will come down, but Austin and Mankind come down to give chase. It's one-on-one at this point. The King goes, oh no, Michaels is on his own. He's out of aces unless Sid returns. Shawn is in disbelief. Hall smiles and begins his comeback. He has Shawn on his heels when Shawn attempts sweet chin music. Razor dodges to kick Shawn in the gut and nail the Razor's Edge for the 1, 2, 3. And still WWF Champion Scott Razor Hall. Now, this would lead us into a solid 1 year for Scott Hall. And I know, people, this was lengthy. I apologize. It was one of those that it was just, I got it right and it got to be a lot of fun. That's why I got as tongue twisted as I did, because I really forgot just how much dialogue I had put into this. It took me a little while. But what do you think? Drop me some comments below. How would the year 2 have gone now that Kevin Nash is there? Would they have stayed remaining the Outsiders, which they couldn't use the Outsiders name, and they wouldn't have been the Insiders, but would they have still remained a pair of two? Or would Big D have turned and joined DX as well? With those guys back, does Shawn Michaels stay on track and try to clean his life up a little earlier and be a consistent talent throughout 99? They damn sure could have used him during this era. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. But at the end of the day, I need you to remember the card is always subject to change.